Hi, everyone. Thanks. Good morning. Welcome to this second day of talk. My subject is about how to refactor a monolith to a multi-app. I will not explain how to make all of this application to work together, but the way you will be able to host a multiple application with Upsun, because now you know it. We just launched Upsun based on Platform.sh. Who I am? So I'm Flo. I'm French, so sorry for my accent. I'm part of the developer relation team with Platform.sh. So we are responsible for the documentation, talking to users, and trying to solve issue of all of these users. In the team, we are some bug magnets, so I'm the number 7 because I have the license to bug. I probably create 2 or 3 bugs a week. Before joining Platform.sh 2 years ago, I was a Symfony and Ibexa developer with some DevOps skills, and I created Code Rhapsody with one of my friends, Jérôme Vieildan. And so, yeah. Just a quick introduction on Upsun. So we are just a platform between your application with a S and one of the 5 biggest hosting company. So we don't own our own server, but when you create your project with us, you will just choose one or the other, and then we will be your hosting company. Just to show you how easy it is to host a Symfony with us, you only need 4 commands. So you can create a demo with the Upsun option using the Symfony CLI, and thanks to Fabien, the Symfony CLI is embedding the platform and the Upsun CLI. So everything you can do with one or the other, you can do it using the Symfony CLI. So when you create a project with the option Upsun, it will automatically generate the config.yaml file that is needed for Upsun to deploy your application. And if you start from an existing Symfony, you just have to use the project in it with the option Upsun to automatically generate what is the minimum configuration that is needed for us to deploy your application. Then the normal Git workflow, Git add, Git commit, and then you create your project, and then you push your project, and it will be deployed and live. So why this subject? We discover that from so many Symfony applications that are hosted with Platform.sh, or the Symfony Cloud, but below it's Platform.sh, 90% of all the Symfony applications are monolith, so using only one application, and only 10% are using 2 or more applications. So I don't want new customer on Upsun to be stuck on just using Symfony, but maybe being able to decouple frontend and use many applications. If you are hosting yourself your application, I will not dig deep into this schema, but this is the architecture that we provide by default on all projects. So you have some CDN, some automatic backup, some cache, some search, so if you do it yourself, you will need to take care of many parts of this schema, but by default, you just need the 4 commands to host your application. And you probably know that in the demo application, you have a PostgreSQL database, but there is nothing in the commands that you need to do to deploy a new database. It will be automatically done, and yeah, that's it. So maybe you already follow one of the Blackfire workshop. So a few years ago, we developed this Bigfoot website. So it's a blog light on Bigfoot sightings. And we introduce a lot of performance issue for you to be able to dig into, to use Blackfire to optimize your website. So it's based on Symfony 6.2 now, PHP 8.3, sorry, because last week I updated. PostgreSQL 15, a lot of fixtures, it's a monolith, and we don't have any administration interface. Just for you to know, the fun fact is a link to an article of last October. I think it was in Colorado, where they had a lot of Bigfoot sightings, and a guy is selling a lot of stuff about Bigfoot, but yeah, just for the fun fact. But you probably know that now Blackfire is not just PHP compatible, but is Golang, Python, and Node.js. I think so, yeah. So for the workshop, we needed to duplicate this interface in many languages. So we start with Django, but we not being able to administrate content was an issue. So we decide to go from a monolith to a multiple application. So the target was to use a Symfony Bigfoot application, use API platform admin components to be able to administrate content. So thanks to Letiel. Add another Gatsby frontend, like a white label consuming just white label frontend consuming the Bigfoot API, just to show you how to decouple and doing it as a multiple application, and a Mercure Rocks server for real-time communication. So for this, I will just explain and give you some tips and tricks on how to do it, really easily. So first, never ever push your code in production, but I think you are convinced. So first, you need to create an environment. You will need to change a bit the folder source code architecture of your different source code for all of the application. Then you need to add the API platform core bundle to your Symfony application. That is, it's a bundle that will automatically generate a REST API based on your entities, and you will not have to do anything else than just adding the bundle, and it will generate the REST API. So if you change something on your entity, it will be available using the REST API. Then, of course, you need to install the API platform. I give the links. A Gatsby application, the Mercure server, configure something, so the YAML file and the resources, and push it live. So first, you need to create a new branch using the Symfony CLI, and it will automatically create your local Git branch and also create the corresponding environment based on your previous branch, and so the previous environment, so having the same data. GDPR compliance is another subject. I will maybe publish a blog post before end of this year, but still, it will automatically generate a new environment with a dedicated URL that is a weird one, but you will have the name of your branch and project ID and the region, and then our own domain. And we manage certificate for you. So let's unscript certificate, and then we will renew them along the way. So you don't have to take care of that. And I know, as a developer before, that is really painful to manage this certificate. So second step is to transform your folder structure. So in the middle, you have your Symfony source code. And at the beginning, there is a .upsun folder that will contain the config.yaml file that is needed by Upsun to deploy your application. And so on the right, this is a new folder structure. So you will have, so you will keep the .upsun at the root of your source code, and then you will create one folder per application, and each folder will contain the source code of all of the application. So you can copy the entire Symfony source code into the API folder. Then you just add your API platform component, the getB, so you just follow the getting start guide, the Mercure rocks, and you will then need to customize each of the new application to be able to communicate with each other, but I will not go through this. I will just give you some tips and tricks on how to get everything well set to communicate each other. So then you need to configure your application. So the config.yaml file, we change a bit for people knowing Platform.sh. On Platform.sh side, you have three YAML files to set up your application, but we only have one YAML config file, and you will have three top-level YAML keys for the routing of all of your application, all the services that you will use, that will be used by at least one application, and then the configuration of all your application. So to configure routing, it's really simple. You will have below the root one block per application. And we use default because, as you saw, on the production environment, you will maybe plug your domain, but we will automatically generate some custom URL for each of the environment. And so it will be replacing the default value. Then you define a type that is always upstream. And you define which application will be delivered using the /default. You can use some first URI elements. You can also, at the end, use some subdomain. And so, yeah, that's all. For HTTP to HTTPS, there is an automatic redirect that is done behind the scene. When you will configure your application, as the config.yaml file is not at the same place as the source code of your application, you will need for each of them below the application, and there is a lot of configuration, but I just want it to be short, to define the source root that will be the real folder where your source code will be located. Then you need to configure services. So below the services, to configure a service, you just need to add a name, a type, and so it's a PostgreSQL version 15. You can also add some small configuration, or for example, if you add a Redis, you will just have to add 2 lines, one for Redis and type Redis and version 7. If you want to configure some max memory policy or anything else, you just have to add a configuration and your configuration. Behind the scene, we will automatically translate these 2 lines of code into the installation of your component on one of the 5 biggest hosting company. But you don't need to do it manually or to ask a DevOps to do it. We will do it for you. Because it's not the same way to install a database on Google Cloud or on Amazon. But we will do it for you. So this is how to configure your application. So I just show for the Symfony one, but at the end, I will give you the link of a GitHub repo having all these sources. So you will be able to deploy it really easily. So for an application, you will define the runtime you want to run for your application. So as you can see, you just define the major and the minor version, but not the maintenance version, because each time you will deploy your application, we will automatically deploy the latest maintenance version. You can define also all of the PHP extensions that you want to install. So then the source root, that is the folder where your source code is located. Some relationships with your application. So in this multiple application, only Symfony will use the database, and the API platform bundle will provide the information using REST API. Then you define your mounts. It's the writable folder where, for example, you will need to write the cache. The way your application will be, so the index.php, so the way your application will be recognized and deliver. Then you define the build step and the deploy step. The build step is the way your container will be created. And one thing that is really important is the usage of the configurator. So it's a tool from Fabien, and it will introduce two commands, Symfony build and Symfony deploy, and it will do the minimum steps to deploy your application, so clear the cache, execute migration, and you will be able to add any command or anything that you need for your specific features to be deployed. So if you need to reindex your database, or to send an email to my grandma using a command, you can do it. You can also define some crons, some workers, and stuff for your application, but then you will get a new configuration block for your admins and Gatsby and Merkur. But this is the only thing that is needed to deploy your application and the way your application will behave on the server side. Another thing that is really important for this configurator is it's a trigger for us to give a percentage of your subscription back to Symfony to support Symfony. You probably know that Fabien joined Platform.sh 2 years ago as a chief product officer. So he's working for us 4 days a week, and he still works for Symfony 3 days a week. So 4 plus 3 equals 7, but it's Fabien, it's normal. So as soon as you modify your source code locally, then you will just use the normal Git flow to push your application. And then do a Symfony push. And it will automatically deploy your application with all of the new application, giving you a small figure of it, just to understand the relation between your application and your services. That's it. So it will automatically use the routing of all of your application to generate the 4 applications using the patterns that you define for your routing. So we will have the default Bigfoot as the default URL, the /admin for the admin interface, /site for the white label Gatsby, and the subdomain to use for Merkur. So you will be able to test anything on your environment, and it's like a sandbox where you will be able to do anything you want. And as soon as you are fine with your source code or your feature, you can do a Symfony merge, and it will automatically get the build of your environment to the production one. So as soon as you merge it, it will take some time to deploy, but still, as soon as it's deployed, it will you will have it live. So maybe you saw on our booth that deploy Friday is our mantra, and even more deploy on Black Friday, because as soon as you can test your feature in a production-like environment, you can be sure that you push into your Git branch all the source code that is needed for your application to be deployed. And so using Upsun, you will remove the sentence that you probably heard in your team the day before the demo. Oh, I don't understand why the staging is crashed. It's working locally. So you remove it because your environment will crash if you miss a file. For people that know a bit Platform.sh and the way but yeah, just to show you the difference between Platform.sh and Upsun. So technically, it's the same. We just change a bit the config YAML file. It's self-service, so you can use your credit card to create a project with Upsun, but with Platform.sh, you need to sign a contract, get the invoice, and pay it at the end of the month. But on the resource allocation on Platform.sh side, you define in your plan some level, and it will be an amount of resources that will be allocated to your production environment. But you can't manage the repartition or the percentage that you want on your PHP, on your database, on your workers and stuff. And all of the preview environment, so as soon as you create a Git branch, it's always having the same size, and you can upsize, downsize it, and you will pay for it, but still, they will all have the same size. But with Upsun, we introduce a new CLI command, resource set, that will let you allocate per container the ratio of CPU and RAM that you want to allocate. So it's more flexible, and it will, by default, the first time you push to production, we will use some default value, amount of resource, depending on the image that you deploy on containers. Well, we deploy on containers. And so you will be able to do it on any environment. So if I'm developing a new feature on my environment, I don't need 4 GB of RAM, so I will be able to downsize it. But it will become also some, and you will pay for the amount of resources that you use on any of the environment. But it will become some like a sandbox. Each environment will become like a sandbox. For example, if your production website is slow, you will be able to maybe try some configuration on resources on a dedicated environment. So you will pay for that, but you will be able to maybe tweak resources to upsize it for your database or for your PHP and find the right configuration, and then you will report the resources that you set on production. So yeah, this is the steps to transform a monolith to multiple application. So this is a link of the source code. So on Platform.sh template, you will find a lot of templates to be able to deploy on Platform.sh. In the Bigfoot multi-app, I create a dedicated branch, multi-app Upsun. So I faced some issue when I designed this multiple application. So first, when in your routing, you use the first URI element to recognize your application, inside your application location, or you need to report the first URI element in both, I will say, name and the path through for your application to always be delivered and using the right file. When you want your application to be able to communicate each other, you will probably locally use some environment variable. So by default, when you start the Symfony server, it will be on the port 8000. But depending on the environment, it will be some dynamic URL where your Gatsby application will be able, the admin, sorry, will be able to communicate with the dedicated application. And so, sorry. That's the first time I give a talk in so many people, so I'm a bit stressed, sorry. So we introduced a new .environment file that will be interpreted only by Upsun or Platform.sh, both, and where you will be able to define dynamically the URL of your application using a platform root that will contain an array with all of the routes for your application. And so using GQ, you will be able to select the ID API, and for your admin interface to be able to, to interact with the REST API of Symfony. Then you can do it in many ways, but still the entry point will be get by from the environment variable. So you can use it directly using the environment, the process environment, but you can also interpret. So from line 15 to the end, you can get directly the Upsun environment variable for your routes, then get the dedicated API, and then do some stuff to interact. So it's two ways to, you can generate it in the environment .environment file, or you can get the by default environment variable and search in it. So you need also to adapt the Git workflow. You need to deploy often, even on Friday and Black Friday. Sorry. We also provide cool features for you to be able to create an integration with your GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket repository. And so you will, as soon as you push using the Symfony CLI or using the Git CLI, we will automatically, as soon as you create a new branch and push it on one of the repository, we will automatically deploy your source code of your branch on a dedicated environment. Of course, you will need to adapt resource allocation because you will be charged for the amount of resources of all of your environment. So as a developer, you will have an impact on the bill that your company will receive at the end of the month. So if you use the same amount of resource as your production environment, you will be charged for your feature branch the same as production. So yeah, that's it. I think I missed a lot of information, but yeah, thanks for your attention, and